Hi. Since you haven't been able to meet with me on Skype, and I thought I'd do a quick video to show you where everything is. So I'm going to walk you through it so you can find everything you need and even give you some advantages because we did a lot of this in class and on Zoom. So let's get started. I will switch my screen. So now you can see this is what you see when you go to our page in D2L. And then it was under assignments, and probably you were looking under draft one, but we actually started before draft one. We started with this outline and works cited, and that's where your solution research paper rubric is. So I'm going to open that up, and it'll take a moment. And now let me move this out of the way. Uh-oh, I need to enable. There we go. Enable. And now I want to make it big again. So here's the assignment. We're doing a 5 to 10 page argumentative research paper that has at least 3 sources, and one must be from the database in our online library. Your purpose is to explore existing arguments and present your own solution for any problem you see in society, to include the topics or variations on the topics discussed in class. So, for instance, homelessness, solving the homelessness problem could be one of your topics. So, right away when I said that, when we did this in class before we went online, back when we were still meeting face to face, we brainstormed ideas on solutions you have. Maybe you've talked with friends about it, and you have a simple solution to a problem and you don't understand why people don't just do that. Well, that's probably a good problem to solve. It can be something very simple and very local. It could be something at OCC, something at your old high school. It could be something about your town, your organization you belong in. It can be very simple. It does not need to be a big topic. In fact, I don't think it should be what we consider pretty unsolvable things like abortion or right to life. Those are really big issues that can't exactly be solved. If they could, we would have done it by now, mainly because they boil down to a person's beliefs. And beliefs are difficult to argue because you believe what you believe, and there's a certain element of faith. And so it is difficult to position yourself with facts when you are confronting people who have beliefs and aren't willing to deal with facts necessarily. So you can avoid those big ones and go with something very plain and simple. And whatever comes to mind as a problem you'd like to solve. And if you have nothing in mind, you can do a preliminary search to see what some hot topics are right now of problems people want to solve. For instance, how to address the COVID virus. How should we be staying at home? How long can we stay at home before our economy collapses? And we don't want to starve to death, right? Lose our homes and everything else. So you could address that problem and try to solve it, or something very simple, as I said. Of course, the more simple you go, more difficult it'll be to get your sources, but that's where you can compare and contrast with other cities, other states, other institutions, and see what they're doing that makes them successful, and that'll help you formulate your own solution. So, first, you must set the stage as to why it is important. So, no one's going to read your paper unless you make it really a pressing issue, something that is detrimental to us in some way and must be resolved. And then you will discuss the causes and expose why any faulty premises and present solutions offered by others, and then say why they aren't as good or why they won't work, and discuss the government role and what it should play, etc. So what you can do is when you open this document, you could literally copy. I'm going to just copy these, Control C. I'm going to make, here's my sample, and I'm going to paste it in here because I've told everyone to leave your headers for now. And I may let you just turn them in with those headers. So it makes it easier to make sure you have, in fact, addressed everything. I'm just getting rid of all of these points so we can actually write something in here. And this one we won't. These two we don't really need as headers, so we'll get rid of those. Okay, so these are our basic headers for each of the sections of our paper. You're going to fill in your own name and change your header there. This is just reminding you of MLA format. Your title, you can wait until you figure out what your point is before you make your title. And then you will want to set up your introduction with a thesis. And the thesis here is very simple. It's going to equal your solution. So your introduction is where I would expect you to include stats, state why it's important to the person reading it, so we did a lot of work with trying to decide who would I address this to. Would it be government officials? Would it be teachers? Would it be parents? Would it be kids? Because that will dictate what information you include and the tone you want to take. So you'll be very formal if you're going to influence people in government, but you would be perhaps more casual if you're talking to children or even parents. The idea is to get them on your side from the beginning, to show them this is relevant to them as well. And to do that, we're also going to want to include some stats. So a great technique is to use a prime example of what you're talking about, like the worst case scenario, and then turn around and state, but this is not an isolated incident, because there are 50,000 people in America who are currently dealing with the coronavirus and so many deaths, or what. So you have to research that to get the stats, and you may have to research to get your prime example. The last sentence will be your solution. So we can, whatever this, solve this problem by doing X, Y, and Z. So you're going to specifically state what it is you think we should do to solve the problem, and that's your thesis. Once you've concluded your thesis, your next section will be your causes. So what's causing the problem? And here you have a couple of options. You may go for one pair. You could list all the causes in one paragraph, or you may have to explain cause and effect, that because we didn't stop traveling, we got the coronavirus in the US, and as people panic, they return to their homes and they spread the disease without knowing it. So now the whole US is dealing with it, whereas originally it was just New York, Michigan, and California, and Washington State. Now the whole US is lit up with it because people keep traveling, they panic and they travel. So you could list, that would be a whole paragraph unto itself. Or you may say, wasn't just the travel, it was China being secretive. So you might have more than one paragraph, is what I mean. And then solutions you will find on the internet. Maybe you just heard people say them, or in our library. And for each solution you present, you will want to state your objections. So you wouldn't have to come up with a better solution if this solution would work, but there must be something wrong with it. Maybe it won't take care of everything, right? And then, so you'll do that for each solution that you present. Within those, government may already be mentioned, or you may decide to rely on the government to help you with your solution. So if you wanted to regulate something, or in my example of coronavirus, if you wanted the government to seal off the states so that nobody could travel in between states, that would involve the police. So if you don't see a way the government can help with your solution, if it's something that has to be done in someone's home, for instance, then you would still mention this because you're getting points for it. And you would say something about how this can't be legislated. It has to be internal. People have to just be willing to change or to do it themselves individually. So there you're still addressing the government involvement. In this case, none. There would be none. There would be no fines, no body regulating it. Also, if you do introduce your solution, be cognizant of money, because the biggest objection people will have to money is to your solution will likely be money involved to do it. So it's a good idea to come up with a plan of where the money would come from. And you could take it from another source of funding, so people aren't charged more taxes, because we don't like paying more taxes. Or you might end up having to say it's worth the taxes, because without it, we've got total devastation. So would you rather be dead, or would you pay higher taxes? So those are two ways, but you must address the money question. Also, you want to anticipate the objections to your solution and refute them. And what I mean by that is to say, so in the example I just gave, people will object to the amount of money that you're going to have to spend to do what you want to do, and you will come back with, well, we could save $1 and lose half our population, which would definitely decrease the tax base, and some of us would be dead, and we wouldn't. It's worth the money to live. Then you have refuted the objection. It's not unlike what you did as a child, perhaps if you had siblings and they argued that you shouldn't be able to do something because they can't do it, and you said, well, I'm older, or I'm a girl, so I get to do it. You came back. It's a comeback to somebody saying you're wrong. And then in your conclusion, you will sum up the causes and the solutions and your own solution. And you will say what will happen if we don't change, and what will happen if we take your advice. So that's the idea. You also have to have a works cited page, which I can help you with one-on-one. If you figure out Skype and tell me when you want to meet, I would be happy to do that with you. All right, so whatever sources you get, make sure you can still access them. You've written down the author's name and the article title, or you've bookmarked them somehow so you can retrieve them again, so we can get the data we need to put on the works cited page. That will in turn affect your in-text. Okay.